Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Refined Life Podcast. We're also now known as Refined AF, and if you don't know what AF means, well,
Alien
AFU.
farts. Alien farts.
Yes, alien farts. So I got my boy Jared Blake over there. Say something.
Alien farts. I did already.
Yeah, see. And I got Jeff Suter.
Alien farts.
And my buddy here. I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to give you a little intro because then I want you to do your speech that you did, because it's so entertaining to me, and I think you're a freaking star. I got to go down to the speak-off, which we'll talk about in the next episode, but I met this incredible dude. We were in a group together. I got to hear him speak, and I got to see his product, and I was like, man, this guy is freaking awesome. And I had him down as the clear-cut winner, and then, but he hadn't paid for all the extracurriculars, so he wasn't there. But anyway.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. His story is freaking awesome. It's a story of persevering through all the no's and finding a special way to get to the places that he wanted to get. So I want him to start off by just giving his speech that he gave the very first time I heard him on stage at the Great American Speak Off, where he was in the top 30 of all the speakers. Out of 27,000 speakers, he made the top 30 with me, and I heard him for the first time in our group, and he was just incredible. But Mr. Akeem Shannon. Woo! And the crowd goes wild. So I just want you to kick into mode. You just bam, do it.
Listen, who wants to know the keys to success? Well, too bad, because I ain't got them. Because see, my keys only ever seem to unlock failure. I remember I was sitting front row. My favorite comedian, I ain't laughed once because once again I have failed. See, at 19, I lost my scholarship, flunked out of college, and over the next 5 years, I saved up nearly $100,000, quit my job, and invested it all in this little idea called a Flipstik. I struggled in the beginning, but eventually I applied to Shark Tank. I get past 40,000 contestants to the final round, and then I get cut. Bad keys. I wanted to give up, but I said I can find another celebrity investor. I decided on hip-hop billionaire Diddy. I convinced myself that I could pitch in my business in a music and rap competition at his music and comedy summit. So I go, I rap, I get to the top 5, and then I get disqualified for not being an actual rapper. Damn keys. So I'm at the comedy show, right? I ain't laugh because my life's a joke. And defeated, I just said, give up. But some inside of me said, no, stand up. Hold your hands up. The comedian looked at me and said, bro, what's up? I said, let me come up. I got on that stage. I did my rap pitch. Diddy loved it. He got Flipstiks. He got Snoop Dogg to buy Flipstiks. And they got me on Shark Tank. And now the Flipstik is sold in retailers nationwide. Because, see, I realize success isn't built on your accomplishments. It's built on your failures. Because when you fail and don't give up, you find the keys to level up. So level up.
Bam!
Hey!
Woo!
Woo! That's fire.
He was wearing this velvet blue jacket. He was on fire. He was on that stage, boy. Everybody was like hanging on the edge of their seats, man. It was so great. And I have one of your Flipstiks here. And
you do have a Flipstik.
I have one. This was given to me. I don't know if I should open this one. I should just go buy another one because this is given to me by the inventor, by the man himself. But it goes on the back of your phone. Do you have yours where you can show them real quick what the Flipstik does?
Actually, you know what? I don't have it in front of me. But essentially, the Flipstik is a little device, goes on the back of your phone, works as a kickstand for your phone, so you can prop it up, watch videos, Netflix, all that good stuff. But the real magic is our synthetic CT adhesive, which is based off the feet of a gecko. And essentially, it allows you to stick or mount your phone virtually anywhere. So you can stick it on a wall, take pictures, do TikTok videos. It's great on the back of a plane seat, so you can watch videos on the back of the plane.
I watched him stick it on a stucco wall that was uneven surface all around, and it stuck. And he was just like, and with the whole weight of the phone, it stuck. And we could have shot a whole video or took a family picture or whatever we wanted to do. So I was blown away by the product. I thought it was cool. But more than anything, I love the fact that you got told no, and kept finding more amazing ways to get to the thing you were trying to get to. Because I think so many times people give up after the first 2 or 3. I mean, most people give up after the first no. But you were like second no, third no, fourth no. And you weren't just getting no's. You were getting no's at the pinnacle. At the pinnacle of like, dude, this is about to be the biggest shit ever.
Sounds like the music industry.
Yeah. And well, that's why that's why he went into doing a rap, because he wanted to get that feeling of that. Now you do rap and you do comedy, you do a little bit of everything, and so
I actually don't do any of those things.
You
only
did.
do business. I do those things because I'm like, look, if I can't do it through Facebook ads, I'll just have to learn to rap, or I'll have to get on a stage. Like I'm the type of person where I'm like, look, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing because it's a crowded space, right? So I'm going to do what I think plays to my own strengths to get to the goal that I'm trying to get to. And I've been lucky. It's worked out for me.
well, luck comes when you work hard, Jeff.
I was just gonna say, I mean, you're a fantastic speaker, so you definitely deserve to be on that stage. Like I would listen to you speak.
Much
for
appreciated.
sure, man.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
It was really
Well,
good.
listen, I want to get into the deeper than the 2-minute version. Because the 2-minute version is great, but the real story is even better.
Well, that's what I wanted to get into next. Is like our conversations have gone as deep as just kind of those, those surface level things. But I did want to learn more about Akeem Shannon. What makes you tick? What made you be the kind of person that has that perseverance, that has that, like, I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to find a way. If there's a river in my way, I'm going to build a bridge over that river. I want to hear what made you the man that you are.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, you talk about like the refined life, right? And I think for a lot of us, it seems out of reach. It just seems like, man, that's for somebody else. They had the connections, they knew the right people, they had the money. There was something that they had that I just don't have, so it's just not for me. And I just never believed that. I had heard too many stories of people who've gone from absolutely nothing to the extraordinary to believe something like that, even when I was young. But even still, like, life happens, and you get hit by a truck, and you're like, you know what? Forget about it. Like, this is too much. I just want to be content. And so, when I remember I graduated high school, I got a full ride scholarship to Howard University in Washington, D.C. And, I felt on top of the world. I was going to study chemical engineering. I was like, I'm going to be making a lot of money. This is going to be great. Cool. Well, I go up there and I lose my scholarship after 2 semesters. And I was devastated because, we all know college costs a fortune. And I'm like, how did I squander this opportunity my parents sacrificed for me to get to this point, and I've wasted it? And I didn't even tell anyone. No one knew I had lost this scholarship. I went back up to the school, even though I had lost the scholarship. I was squatting in the dorm. And when I tell you I didn't even have words for it at the time. I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't know I was having anxiety. I just knew I was staying up all night. I was sleeping all day, and I felt like absolute dog shit. And I remember I was thinking back the other day about how I was eating cheese and crackers in the dorm, because I'm like, I don't want to waste any money. Like, I got to be here for a semester. I can't ask my parents for any money. And like, I was in such a depressive state. I was so ashamed of the failure that I had faced. Like, I was paralyzed, and I didn't even tell anybody about it. Didn't even ask anyone for help because I just felt it was too late. And like, from that really low point, when I finally told my parents, that, look, when I come home, I'm not coming back up here. They were nice on that phone call, but when I got home, they was pissed. And I don't know if I told you this, Bigg Vinny, but my mom's from Tennessee. She's from Alcoa, Tennessee.
You did tell me. I know
tiny little town.
I know exactly where that's at. So.
And a little coal town. And she was heated. And so, I felt like an absolute failure. I felt like I let my parents down, let my entire family down, let myself down. I felt embarrassed for my friends who went to these great schools. They're going to come out making all this money. So I made myself a promise. I didn't know if I could recover, but I had this promise to myself that by the time my friends graduate college, I have to at least be making as much as the average college graduate. If I can't have the degree, I can at least have the money. And so that's how I got to work. And I started off in a cell phone shop, a Sprint store, selling cell phone accessories. I always liked phones. Said, hey, this is going to give me a free phone, and I can't afford too much or nothing right now, so that'll work. And I found myself being a great salesperson. I worked my way up, got a couple promotions. I ended up being a top sales rep at Sprint, and then eventually one of my managers left to work at Verizon in a call center, called me up, was like, hey, you're going to make way more money if you come to Verizon. You got to get over here. Ended up hiring me there. And I found by the time my friends were graduating, I was making about $90,000 a year, and I saved up over $100,000. And this is about a 4-year period, right, from that failure, 3-4 year period. And man, when I tell you that sense of relief and also now belief in myself that, holy shit, a few years ago, like, I was making $10 an hour, destitute, college dropout, failure. And now I'm the #1 sales rep at this Fortune 500 company, making great money, going to all these cool places. I remember I did this thing called Verizon Rockstars, this brilliant competition they have. It's like a pitch competition for Verizon services. And so when you were a finalist, you got to go down to Miami Beach, the Fontainebleau Hotel, nicest hotel on the beach. And they rented the whole place out, put Verizon Rockstar signs everywhere. So all the people coming through the hotel that weren't with Verizon, and they see you, and all the Verizon employees are coming up to you asking for your autograph. So everyone else in the hotel, all the employees think you're a celebrity and that you're famous and you're performing. It's brilliant. And like I won that whole competition. And on top of having saved up the money and having the salary and all that stuff, man, it taught me, like, even when you're at your lowest, absolute low in the dirt, you can come back from that. And it's not nearly as hard as you made it out in your head to recover. And so, man, from that moment on, it never could get any worse. So I'm like, if it couldn't get any worse, it can always get a lot better. And I think for me, that really set me up to have a mindset that just knows for me, with like, a no, that doesn't mean anything. Like, that's not going to stop me.
Oh, I love that. And that's awesome, man. I can't remember who sang it. There was a song that says, when you hit rock bottom, there's only 2 places to go. You can go straight up or sideways, and
So true.
And I think there's times in our life when we do go sideways. You get down there and you get in your feelings and you feel defeated for a little bit, but it's like Rocky Balboa said, it ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep getting back up and keep coming back forward for more. So, I love the fact that you were like, man, I felt like a loser. I had this shame. I didn't want to tell anybody. I was squatting in the dorm. Like, that's real, man. I think a lot of people can connect with that because a lot of people have been through that situation, or they've gotten to that where they feel ashamed. I know I've had some friends along the way, even a few years ago with my wife before she started her own company. She had this kind of thing where she would say, she's like, I just thought I would be somewhere different by now. I just thought I would be, making more money in my life, or I thought I'd be this or that. Now, she's just like me and Jared. She came to town to Nashville, Tennessee to try and make it in the music industry. And you throw away all your plan Bs. When you walk in, you're like, I'm going to go do this. Now you have jobs, and well, you should have a job.
Whole another episode.
That's another episode. But you work whatever job you got to work, but your whole idea is to put that towards the dream, and you're willing to sacrifice and make that happen. While you see your friends, they've graduated, now they're out of college, now they're making X amount of dollars a year, and the whole time you're like, man, gosh, should I have done that? But then you're like, and then you get these little crumbs of success along the way, and you're so excited about it. And when you post on your Instagram page, you're like, oh my gosh, your life is so cool. They're looking at you thinking, man, I wish I could have went after my dreams and my things. And of course, you're sitting there thinking, well, you didn't go after yours, but you could invest in mine. So,
it's one of the things that he said that I found the most interesting was he was saying, so I'm not in college, but I want to be making the same kind of money that they are when they get out of college. And like for the music industry, I think about that too. Like, even that little flip of the switch, that little bitty just looking at it, things slightly different. Because music industry, for example, like you're always looking for that big record deal, that big publishing deal. Those are all pipe dreams. But if you had stopped, either one of us, at 21 and went, well, I want to be making the same kind of money my buddy is at 24 when I'm 24. And we had focused on the business side of building that, you would have. You know what I mean? There was nothing to stop you from making money in the music industry. Everything that was stopping you was the guy who claimed to have the keys to it, right? And so I thought that
throwing
was
it back
really,
to you like that. That's good.
I thought that was really interesting take on the way he was looking at that, as well to add to what you were saying. Also interesting that my wife went through the same thing of like I thought I'd be further by now, this and that, and it's weird how it seems like women and men process this a little differently. It seems like women get close to that 40, and they start going, "What happened? I thought I'd be further by now." I thought that at 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26,
15,
every
16.
year of my life, I was like, I thought I'd be further by now.
Yeah.
And I feel like I hit 40, and then it was like, All right, well, let's restructure a little bit here, but
Yeah.
I was used to that feeling. But
Well, yeah, and I think that you learn so many things along the way. I think with especially with you and your wife, y'all had kids at a young age. You know what I mean, and you started being parents as well. And I think for you, your mentality was like, hey, I grew up old school. I got to go make the living. I got to go make the
For
money.
sure.
I mean, it's the same now. Like, it's almost more expensive to have both of you working, even though you really need double income. The amount of childcare that would have cost for you with 6 kids for childcare, she couldn't really go and do that job. So whereas she saw all these other women maybe that were having these successes or making their real estate business big or whatever, she had to be a mom to 6 kids. And I think obviously now she's come back and she's now these women are asking her for a job. But
you look at how much she's changed just in the last few years because of the kids being older, like how much she's accomplished. But I had a question for you, Akeem, right?
Akeem.
I had a question for you, brother. So you talked about the job that you had with Sprint, realizing you had a talent there, and then moving on to Verizon and making $100,000 a year basically before by the time your friends were getting out of college and everything. With Vinny and I speak to a lot of people, and I know Jeff's got some experience in this as well. And people do latch onto that victim mentality. And so I'm curious what you would say to someone that goes, yeah, but you started off doing great. Okay, we understand that you lost your scholarship or whatever, but then you went out and you found that you had this talent for selling, and I don't find any talents for myself. Like, you found this talent, but what do you say to those that steal? Because, I mean, when you think about how well you were doing at what age, most people still don't have that. They still don't have that drive, nor did they think that they found a talent. And you said yourself, hey, I realized I was good at this. So what do you say to those that don't know what that talent is?
I mean, it's a mindset thing, right? Like, I remember when I started at Sprint, I was 19. I was the youngest person in the store. And, I looked at some of these people who were older, and I just used to tell myself, I'm like, I can't be where they're at when I'm their age. Like, I just can't be me. I think for me, it starts with belief, right? Like, if you truly believe you have no talent, right? You got no talent. Like, it's hopeless for you. Like, you can't do it.
You are what you believe you are.
You're what you tell yourself, right? Like, so if you already told yourself, it's over for you. However, it's so simple to just change that mindset, like you said, to say, no, like, I can do this thing. And I think for a lot of people, when you're in school, like, people put you in a box, right? Like, you guys are music guys. Like, how many teachers told you that's not an option, that's not a career? And it was funny what you mentioned about, if you had thought about it, it's like, how do I make this much money in this music career? It reminds me of a story. This guy, he loved music. He wasn't great at music. He was all right. But he just wanted so much to be in the industry. But he was really good at all the business side of things. What he was really great at was the distribution, making the CDs, putting the CDs out there. When the streaming platforms, when iTunes came around, getting the stuff on iTunes, this guy goes and creates DistroKid, right? And he goes and creates a platform and says, hey, I'm really, really good at this part of the business. May not be as great on the guitar, but I'm really good at this. And he turned into a multi-billion-dollar company. And he's still in music. And he allows millions, tens of millions of people to get their music out to the world. And so it's like, even if you don't think, hey, look, you're not the best basketball player, right? You're not the best real estate agent. You're not the best doctor. There's opportunity, there's lanes for everybody in what you're passionate about. Because all these industries are so big, they need so many people to function and work. And I think the important thing is like, hey, once you find that little niche, like, really hyper focus in on it. And that's where you find your talent and your success. It's the things that you do, that you love to do, that you're interested in doing, that you're doing for free outside of work, that really are the things that will pay you the ultimate dividends in the future. And I think if you can't take an hour to quiet your mind, to put aside all those self-doubts and say, hey, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out what it is for me that I want to truly become. I got to be honest. I think for most people in the world, unfortunately, they never figure that out. I mean, all you got to do is take a look around. Even people who are making good money, they're not happy. Mm-hmm. They're not fulfilled in their life. And that's how I found myself. That's why I ended up leaving those jobs. I was making great money, but I wasn't fulfilled anymore. My spirit wasn't feeling good. Well, so I was like, I got to go do something else.
You're saying that you leave those jobs. But what I heard in that, though, is that you still, when you looked at it and said, that can't be me. I'm not going to be here when I'm 40. Most people, I feel like, go, that's not going to be me. I don't care about this job. I don't care about this place. You can fire me. I can quit, whatever. They put no effort into it. They go, that's not going to be me, but they don't create a plan of how that's not going to be them. Where you went, that's not going to be me, and then you became the best one there over the next year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you still took on what you had in front of you, where other people look at it and go, this is not going to be me. I don't care anything about Sprint. I'm not going to be with Sprint anyway. One day I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to do this and this and this. And so it's just these pipe dreams instead of going, well, this is where I'm at right now, and therefore I'm going to make the most of this so that I can move further and move further and move further. You know, so you say you left there.
Well, you know what I think happens there? I think what happens to those people, right, is they're in a job like Sprint. And they know what they want to become, right? They know they want to be on TV, right? They know that about themselves. However, they don't believe they can do it. They think it's impossible. So rather than take the steps necessary to go through with it, they don't want to feel the failure that comes with going on that journey. They're afraid of it. They're afraid of that failure. And so instead of pursuing the dream, facing the failures and the setbacks and the no and all those things that's going to come along with chasing after that impossible dream. Instead, they give up before they get started. And even though they don't quit the job, in their mind, they tell themselves, I don't even want to be here. I can't do this. I can't go as far as I want. And so they show up 5 minutes late and 10 minutes late. They forget to clock out of their job. They're not closing the sales they're supposed to do. And subconsciously, they're bringing forth that firing, which is what they're desiring, because they don't actually want to face the scary parts of pursuing a crazy dream. And so I think for me, having had already failed, right, having had felt as bad as it was going to get, I'm like, well, fuck it. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I can curse.
You can cuss all you want, buddy.
I'm like, I'm going for this. Like, I'm going for it. And what I found was that when you go for it, yeah, it's hard. Like, you face heartache, you get rejected. I've faced terrible rejections, but so what? Because
it was a Hawaiian Tropic model was the first one, right? It was a Hawaiian Tropic model was the first big rejection that really just crushed you.
Which one? Sorry.
The Hawaiian Tropic. The Hawaiian Tropic model.
I don't know what the Hawaiian.
He's like what?
You don't remember Hawaiian?
Okay, buddy. It took us a minute.
Have you ever seen the movie Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah.
You know, at the end, the Hawaiian Tropic models pull over in the bus and they say, we're looking for 2 guys that can rub us down with lotion and all this.
Oh, yeah.
No, the town you're looking for is back that way. Man, 2 lucky guys are going to be with those hotties all year, you know. Hang on. The town's back that way. So I'm just saying what it makes me think of when you say that, they didn't believe that they could be those 2 guys. And not only did they not believe it once, even when they stopped the bus and they're like, come on. They're like, oh, no, the town's back that way. You'll find the right guy back there because it ain't me. They don't believe in their self. And that's what goes through my mind whenever things like that happen. I mean, that's why my mind works. But what I love about that is, you know, you have to take risk. So you're out there and you know your only goal was to make the money that you needed to make to pursue the things that you truly wanted to pursue. Where I think a lot of people, they're trying to make money because it's like, oh my gosh, I got to hold on to this. I got to hold on as tight as I can because if I let this go, then I'm a loser again or I'm a nobody. And if I fail again, then everybody's going to talk bad about me. And I think you have to get in that place where you erase it out of your mind. You're like, I don't care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah.
I know what I'm chasing. I know what I'm going after. I know what I'm trying to do because, listen, I think that, you know, people kill their own dreams by thinking that somebody else is going to think bad of them, by thinking somebody else is going to, you know, look at them in a bad way. And so I love people that are willing to risk it, you know, risk it for the biscuit, as Andy Reid would say. I love people, and because I know you're up there close to Kansas City anyways. You're in St. Louis, but I'm sure you're a Chiefs fan.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I know. Freaking Chiefs.
Just the Rams went and, you know.
Yeah, the Rams left y'all high and dry.
I'm not
after they took our Tennessee Titans Super Bowl from us. Anyway, I'm not bitter about it 20 years later.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you got home, you said mom was pissed. Like pissed,
Ooh.
right? When you decided to chase your true dream, were they in full support, or did you have family that was like, come on, man, you can't quit your job at Verizon. You gotta keep this up.
Listen, my parents are old school, so they didn't want me to quit the first job I had. I remember I told my dad, I was like, yes, I'm gonna quit Verizon. I'm gonna quit Sprint. I'm gonna get paid way more money at Verizon.
Yeah.
He's like, but you already got 2 promotions there, and you need to stay there, because they come from that mindset of, if you stay at a job for 30, 40 years, they'll treat you right. And I'm like, those days
get a
are
watch.
over, okay?
Yeah.
These corporations could not give 2 shits about you, okay?
Yeah.
And I say, I'm leaving, I'm going after more money. But that was how it was every time. I remember when I left Verizon, I told them I'm leaving Verizon because I want to start my own business. And my parents were pissed. They're like, what do you mean you're making all that money, you're going to leave this job? And I said, yep.
That was the reason I was making all that money.
I quit. But here's the thing. When I quit Verizon, I was still afraid. I didn't have the belief and trust in myself yet.
That's
and
understandable.
So then another job opportunity came to work for Square. The guys to make Cash App, be able to take your credit card on your phone. And I always wanted to work for a tech company. So then I started working for them. And I remember when I was getting ready to quit that job, I just didn't tell them that time. I was like, it's not even, they're going to have a heart attack if I tell them. So I didn't tell them that I quit until, it was probably like 6 or 7 months later. We had launched Flipstik. I had done the Kickstarter campaign, and the Kickstarter campaign had launched, and I think I had made like 10 grand in the pre-order campaign. And then that's when I told them I had quit my job. Because I was like, they can't, they didn't get it.
Like, listen, I've made 10 grand off of an idea right now, okay? So just know my ideas are great.
Right. I didn't have anything to sell. Like, these are people buying it because I made a video.
Right. Well, how many of these have you sold now? So, and how long ago did you create this? Well, how long ago did you start the GoFundMe campaign? Yeah. And until right now, how many have you sold?
Yeah, so I did that pre-order campaign on Kickstarter in 2018, in March, March of 2018. And then to date, we've just crossed 1 million units sold.
Come on with it.
Let's go. Quite a few of these things.
Well, I know I'm going to be 4 more.
Most of those, over 50% of those were sold in the last 18 months.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So we sold a lot, and over 90% of those were sold in the last 3 years.
So what was the
after being on Shark Tank?
Yeah, what was the Shark Tank effect? Was it like overnight you had 25,000 orders, or how did it trim? Obviously after it aired, but
yeah. So we do Shark Tank. It was pandemic, right? So they had a bubble. They it was ABC, so they contacted ESPN about their bubble that they did down at Disney World for the NBA, and they had the same guy do the bubble for them. So we're in the Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas. I had to do quarantine for like 2 weeks prior to being on air, and I literally walked out my hotel room the first time I saw like sunlight in 2 weeks, and they're like, all right, you're walking right onto the set and we're filming. So it was an incredible experience. Highly recommended for anyone out there who has a business. One of the most fun things I've ever done. Producers were absolutely incredible. We get a deal on the show from Lori. Several weeks, a couple months goes by. It's getting close to when it's going to start airing. And so I get the notice for it to air. We're starting to get prepared. I had to scramble, get a warehouse up and running, all this kind of stuff. And the air date for me, I had asked the producers, I said, guys, please I want to get in before Black Friday, because the season runs all the way to like June. Yeah. And only a couple episodes are before Black Friday, but I knew we were stocking stuff for product. And so I kept telling them, please, and I have no control over it, but they like me. So, it's like June.
You're hard not to like, buddy.
I get in before Black Friday in November. Like November 10th or something. But it was the week of the election, the 2020 election. And so, if you remember, that week following election, no one knew who the president was. Yeah. And everyone was like, who's the president? Who won? We don't know yet. It's too close to call. So Friday comes around, and they still don't know who the president is. And I find out like 5 or 6 hours before the episode's supposed to air that they're going to delay it by 2 hours so they can have news coverage. I'm like, are you fucking serious? 2 hours? No one's, that's so late.
That ain't prime time.
So I'm like, it's going to be okay. Right. It pushed us out of prime time. So I'm like, okay, you know, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. People are going to watch on their DVRs. They'll watch online. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. So episode comes on, and right before it comes on, the news guy is like, you know, we you know, if there's any news, you know, from Joe Biden or Donald Trump, you know, we're going to interrupt Shark Tank to bring you that news. And I was like, God, I do not want to know who the president of the United States is.
Not tonight.
I do not care. I don't care, okay? I just want to be on Shark Tank. So the episode comes on. It's going through the motions. I was the last person of the episode. No interruptions. I'm like, okay, we're good. I come on, and as you know, I did a rap as I came on to Shark Tank. Like, I did the same rap I did for Diddy and Snoop as I came out onto the set. The rap comes on. I had a whole watch party. We're all cheering. We're having a great time. And about 30 seconds into my actual pitch, we're interrupting this regularly scheduled programming to bring you a message from candidate Joe Biden. I was like, are you fucking serious? When I tell you, being in that dorm room was one of the lowest moments of my life.
Until then.
But that night, I was devastated. I was so angry. I was like, how do you get to the Super Bowl of fucking business and then it gets snatched away from you? And then Joe Biden had the nerve to get on there and say, we got no news to report. I don't have anything to tell you. I was like, are you serious? You don't even have anything to say? Why?
And now he's been saying nothing for the last 4 years.
So
he said nothing in 4 years. Anyway, not that we want to get political, but we will on this show sometimes. But anyways, so he interrupted your show. So then what happened?
He's talked about ice cream.
So it cuts off. We don't get nearly the amount of traction that we were going to get. Even still, we made like $100,000 over the course of the next, couple of days.
Okay.
But I was thinking I'm going to be a millionaire in a week. Yeah. So I was just so upset. I was so hurt. It felt so unfair. But when you go on Shark Tank, they make you sign a document that literally says like, hey, acts of God we can't control. Something could happen, and it may not air, even though it's scheduled to air. Because one year the Boston bombing happened, and they never aired the episode that they had recorded. And so I know this, but just something inside of me was like, you got to reach out to the executive producer and just tell him you want him to re-air the episode. And so I reached out to him, and for the first time in Shark Tank history, they decided to re-air an episode.
Wow.
And he ended up re-airing it in prime time on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
It was a hot prime time. And so we ended up airing twice, the only Shark Tank episode to air in primetime 2 times. And so, man, it was just one of those things where, once again, right, like.
That's such a great point because, if you look at the Bible, it says you have not because you ask not. And you stepped out of your comfort zone and called the executive producer and said, hey, I know this is not something you've ever done, but would you do this? And you got a yes. And the only reason you got a yes probably is because you asked. So you have because you asked.
Well, he wasn't going to get one without asking.
And even in his email to me was like, Akeem, you signed a document. It says that we don't do this. This happens. We have no control over it. He's like, that being said, we're going to re-air it on January 1st. Like,
hey, did you also tell him, hey, that wasn't an act of God. That was an act of Satan, first off. So they were trying to mess with me and mess with my profits. So then when it aired on New Year's, how did that one, another big spike? And that's awesome, dude.
But, we had the spikes from Shark Tank, but honestly, that's not really what set us up for the long-term success because that's like an adrenaline shot, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not long-term.
Little EpiPen.
So then the work just began, and we would go on to raise some money from investors outside of Shark Tank, and from those investors and having like a great mentor and a host of number of things. That's when we start seeing traction. We got into a ton of retail stores, Target, Best Buy, AT&T, T-Mobile. Got a ton of press from People Magazine, Today Show.
Hey, Sprint and Verizon better step it up.
You know what? Sprint Verizon never put us in the store. We're in T-Mobile and AT&T. And I was like, I worked for you, bro.
Ain't that some
But,
shit?
you know, it's all good.
That's all right. You'll get there, man. This product is great.
But funny enough, the
weird.
only the only company I ever got fired from was Target. It was one of my first jobs I ever had. And I got fired from the job because I had a no-call, no-show for like 2 days in a row. And they fired me. The only job I've ever been fired from. And years later, I remember I walked into the store for the first time seeing my product on a shelf. And that was the first store we were in, major like retailer that we were in. And man, when I tell you I walked into that store, it was like one of those moments where you just like, damn, how the hell did this happen? This is crazy.
Yeah.
Now that's awesome, man. So walk me through this process, because this is so interesting to me, and I don't know what we're time limit on are, but I'm going to keep talking anyway. You have this idea, and somehow you look at a gecko's foot, which, by the way, Geico, get your boy in all the cars, commercials, all the, just sell this thing. That way people can be hands free while they drive. See, I'm just coming up with new parts for your business. But you have this idea. What was? Hey, I'm in. I need another job anyways. I got kids. Jared knows he's got 6 of them. How did you take it from an idea to fruition, and not just a fruitful business, but something? I mean, it's an actual product that really works. I mean, so many times I feel like I buy a cell phone product and it like works for 30 seconds, and I'm like, well, that broke. But I watched you use this thing all week on your phone, and I mean, stuck to everything, and it worked. So tell me that process. Did you engineer it? Did you go in and find the material and create it and do everything, or did you work with somebody? Tell me that.
Yeah, partnerships, man. So I learned about the technology. It's originally NASA technology. So they researched this stuff back in the 70s. As with a lot of NASA technology, it's open source. So you can go and see all of the research data around it. But because your tax dollars paid for it, it's freely accessible for anybody to use and create, right? It's not patented. It's available for you to use. And so what I did was I knew I wanted to use it. I had created a prototype, but, in America, we don't manufacture things anymore. So when I was going to search for adhesives, even when I contacted 3M, right, the largest adhesive manufacturer in the world, they don't make their adhesives in America anymore.
Yeah.
Like, they make like 2 products here, the rest in China. You can't even order it from a U.S.-based representative for a U.S.-based company. You have to call their Hong Kong representative just to order stuff. And so I knew that I was going to have to go overseas to produce the product. And, I'll be completely honest, the reason that it works so well is because, in today, like, the world is so open and so accessible. If you have an idea and you want to bring it to life, it's easier than it's ever been to do with as little amount of money as you could possibly imagine. And so I don't know if you guys know the story of the guy who created GoPro, but I knew his story. And his story is like, he knew nothing about cameras. He wasn't a tech guy, none of that stuff. He was a surfer. And he had traveled around the world surfing. He was like a pro-am surfer, not that great, but decent. But he had no footage of his surfing except from a quarter of a mile away on the beach.
Right.
And he wanted to change that. And so he went to Best Buy, bought a camera, a Sony camera, went to a store, got some acrylic, duct taped it together, FedExed it off to China and said, hey, I want you to make a camera, surround it in acrylic, and I want it to be waterproof. And that's how GoPro was born, a $3 billion company from a surfer. No engineering experience.
That's great.
So I just did the same thing, right? I got on the internet. I found some manufacturers that manufactured like command style strips and hooks and stuff. People that I say, hey, they have the equipment to do what I need them to do. And then I just shared with them the research documents, the type of adhesive that I wanted them to create. Eventually found someone that had something very similar, gave them what I had found in my research of how I wanted them to change it. And I ended up getting about 3 prototypes made. I paid for 3 prototypes, only got 2. And that probably ended up costing me about $5,000 of investment into getting like the first product made, which is that's like nothing, you know, when you're getting into manufacturing. And then we did the Kickstarter campaign, which more than covered all of that. And so it was one of those things where it's like, I think for a lot of people, they would have, when you have an idea, it's just an idea. It's going to be so difficult. It's going to be so hard to get it up and running. I had just picked up things over the years, and I was like, well, if I don't want to invest a ton of money, like I can just do a Kickstarter campaign, right? And if I want to manufacture something, just like the GoPro guy did, I just need to go find the guys in China that are doing something similar and then ask them to make it. Are they going to steal your idea? 100%. But did it cost you next to nothing to bring it to market? Yes, it cost you next to nothing. And so, yeah, man, I was just determined. I was like, I'm going to make this work. And once I got that first sale on the pre-order campaign, that was a wrap for me. If I could convince somebody to buy something that didn't exist, I was going all the way.
So you get somebody to buy that doesn't exist, and you said you raised $10,000 on that. And how long?
15.
So 15. And how long did it take to raise that?
That was 1 month.
Okay, in 1 month you got $15,000 for a thing that didn't exist. Crap! I got to start selling nothing. Yeah. I've been trying to sell real shit, man. I got to start selling some nothing. But you sell this idea.
That means your speakers are wrong. The classes you've been to, they said you needed something to sell.
Yeah, no, they were wrong.
To sell, brother.
He knows. He heard him telling me, Vinny, you got to make a business. I went and created a whole business the night before the speak off. But okay, so you create this. You got people buying it. What did they get? I mean, did they just get a product? Like they got one when you got them made?
They were just pre-ordering. So the great thing, if you never used Kickstarter before, it's a little different from GoFundMe, right? So GoFundMe is like a donation,
right?
But with Kickstarter, you are funding an idea. It could be a music album, it can be a movie, it can be a product. But in return, you don't give up any equity in your business. You only are giving them an end product. And so, all I was doing essentially was offering pre-orders for people to be able to get the product in the future once I've actually created it.
Bro, you must be a rock star because I can't.
Amazing tool when you're starting with nothing.
I can't even get people to pre-save my song on Spotify for free. So I need you to come in and talk to these people. Like, listen, I need you to go pre-save Bigg Vinny's song. It's coming out. It just helps him hit the algorithm. It doesn't cost you anything. You're already paying $12 a month for every song in the history of music. So if you could just pre-save Bigg Vinny's song, that'd be great. No, I think, man, I just think it's incredible.
But
the story.
You know what made it? And I see this sometimes from music, right? Is like what made it work was I invested and spent a lot of time creating that video. It was a 2.5 minute pitch video telling people about what it is I was creating, the product, what it was going to do, how it was going to work. And so these were complete strangers. I had no marketing, of that 15,000, maybe 250 were people I personally knew, right? The vast majority, total strangers, never heard of me a day in their life.
That's
awesome. So I think that when you're trying to break out onto the scene, you're trying to sell something, no one knows who you are, creating that authentic, story and just being like, hey, look, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's what I want to do. Just take a look, take a chance. People resonated with it. And listen, $15,000 is nothing on Kickstarter. Some people are raising $1 million, which is what I thought I was going to do. I was like, I'm going to $1 million on here. It's going to be great. I only did 15, right? So to me, it felt like not what I was going for. But it was enough to be like, damn, it wasn't $1 million, but it wasn't zero. And maybe
and you knew people were getting the idea. Your idea was validated. And that point, you had this, this validation that, hey, what I'm trying to create, people want, And I think that's a great thing when you do go to the next level up of investors or P. Diddy or Snoop Dogg or Shark Tank. It's like, hey, people believed in this before it existed. So much that they were willing to put in $15,000 over a month's time to create that. I think there's people out there that have, Jared knows he's in real estate. You're trying to take somebody, you're like, if you put in your $15,000 now, you will make an extra $5,000 within a month and a half. And they're like, I ain't doing that. What if it don't work? I'm like, well, the market says it's going to work. Everything points to it's going to work. We've done this 50 times and it's always worked. Not that he's asking for $15K anymore because now he does 100, 200, whatever K. He does big houses now, but I'm just saying it's an incredible thing. So, so you take this, you get it going. Now you go and you're talking to P. Diddy. Do you get to spend much time with those guys on a daily basis? Not a daily basis, but
you get no time.
Yeah, okay? Zero time. Okay.
I get absolutely no time at all. But the thing is, it's really not even about the time.
Yeah, their name is
attached. It's about the connections.
Yeah.
When I go and do this whole thing, right? I rap, I get on stage. The reason that all of it worked is because I was disruptive.
Right.
I was coming in, I was breaking all their rules, right? And even though to my face, they're like, you're breaking the rules. Behind the scenes, they're like, this guy's breaking the rules. Do you know what I'm saying? And I remember I got to LA. So after I met them in Atlanta, right? And his whole team was there. AT&T was the sponsor of the event. And they invite me to LA to the next event. They buy a ton of products. And when I was out there, I remember I walked up to this guy. His name's Van Latham. He works at TMZ. He did the famous interview with Kanye, if you remember that. And I walk up to him, and I'm like, "Hey, my name's Akeem. I have this product called a Flipstik. You know, great to meet you. I love to." He's like, "Bro, I already know who you are."
Right.
And I'm like, "What do you mean you know who I am?" He's like, "Bro, they've been talking about you in the meetings." I was like, "The meetings?"
You're a rule breaker.
He's like, "Yeah." Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, you're the guy who was up on the stage and you were rapping during the comedy show, and then DJ Khaled was like, yeah, we need to help that kid." Like, I was like, oh, shit. And so when at that event, which is where I got to meet Snoop Dogg, it was one of those things where, you know, the event's over, the video had gone viral. However, what was going on behind the scenes is they were still talking, right?
Right.
Man, this kid's so great. Look at all this stuff he did. The sponsor, AT&T, right? They see a phone accessory getting promoted, this music and this music summit. Like, that's brilliant. They love that. So they're happy. Everyone's happy. And so they just made a phone call. They called a casting director from Shark Tank who they knew, who they worked very closely with. And he just called me up and was like, "Hey, come audition." And then I was on the show. So it was just one of those things where I think, like, when you just show up authentically as yourself, you know, and you're just focused, people see it, they recognize it, and they want to help. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of people, they want to be a part of your story, especially if they think it's going places.
Yeah.
Like, they just want to be that little piece. So while, you know, I may not have hung out with Puff too much, you know, other than like once or twice, didn't hung out with Snoop other than once or twice. Like,
that's more times than
all
I've
they
ever
have
got to hang
do-
out with either one of them, and I'm a fan of both, so I'm jealous.
Hey, so you said something earlier there too that I want to hit on, because Vinny made the remark. He's like, "Man, I can't even get people to save my free Spotify." But you said something about the time and effort you put in the video, and I just want to point something out, because I mean, as long as I've been in this industry, no one's ever said that and put that to me that way of like, whoa. Like, we put all this time and effort into crafting a song. We put all this time and effort in producing a song. Put all this time and effort in creating a music video for this song. We do all these things. And then when it comes down to selling it, we go, "Hey, get this.
Here's a story.
Hey, download this. Hey, take this. Hey, stream this." Hey, the story leaves at that moment. And just like, I've heard Vinny's speech, 1,000 times. But the day he called me and said, "Hey, they had me put my speech into 60 seconds. I was like, "There's no way. You've never done anything in 60 seconds. Well, maybe one thing, but we're not going to discuss that right now.
36 seconds.
and then he took his entire amazing story and crushed it into 60 seconds. And, I mean, obviously you heard it as well. It's powerful, man. I mean, the way this thing starts off is just right at, it's just going for the jugular right from the get-go. And when he leaves you in that 60 seconds, I'm going, "Do you have a book? What do you have? I got to know the rest of the story. I have to know about your life." And so when you said that, it made me think, never in my life have I told people to download this song or stream this song or save this song and actually sat down, first of all, to take the time to tell you why I chose this song, what this song means to me, and why I'm putting it out into the world. Let alone did I edit that video over and over and over again and rework it until I had the perfect 60 seconds to deliver that song. Instead, you look for, well, what are my hashtags going to look like? Well, how do I get this? Can I get so-and-so to repost it? Can I do this? Can I do that? All this crap that I hate. I mean, these guys know how much I hate that part of social media.
I don't like it either.
But
so much you quit doing it.
But then when you brought that up, it was like, dang. But what I love is why I did what I did. Yeah. What I love is why I took the time to produce that or write that. And I can talk about that all day. But that's a really brilliant moment to think about that execution, because that was you also thinking outside of the box. Because right now, execution has been told to us is, well, you put it on social media, and then you just keep saying it, and then you make up a little dance about it, try to get some other people to do that same dance, like just all of this crap. But you just went, seriously, hey, this is what I want to do. I mean, I'm going to tell you now, I want to thank you personally, because there's so many things that I've got going on right now, business wise, and when you said that, I immediately in my head applied that to each one of those things. It was like, whoa, if I do this and this and this, and it's really just taking that time. And I think for me, like I said, I would get very confused because people would be like, well, you got to promote yourself. You got to promote yourself. I'm not big on telling you how great I am. It's not comfortable for me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I hate the idea of looking to, did someone like it? Did they download it? I hate looking at that. It sickens me. It makes me feel bad about me. And so I pull away from it. But, knowing that you care about what you're doing and going, I want people to understand why I care so much. That's freaking brilliant. It's great.
You know what? This is what it reminds me of in the music analog. So I recently watched, I'm a big Leonardo DiCaprio fan, and I recently watched his Killers of the Flower Moon on Apple TV. And there was this guy who was in there who was a co-star. Never heard of the guy, didn't think too much, but then he ended up on like a YouTube video I was watching. And I was like, wait a minute. And he said he was a rock star. And I'm like, wait, what? You were just, this like character in this movie, kind of like a smaller role, like you're a rocker or what? So I look him up. His name's Jason Isbell. I had never heard of this guy a day in my life. Didn't know anything about this guy, like the white, like folk singer, not the type of music I listen to at all, right? So he's on The Daily Show, and they interview him, and he's talking about how, she's talking about the movie, but she talks about his music, and he's like, yeah, when I'm creating music, I have so many friends that have gone through a lot of things, and when I'm writing a song, I create these characters based off my friends and the things they've been through, the things they've done. It's not always about my own experiences. I have a friend and, got in trouble when he was young and, went to jail for a while and, had to come out of that and figure it out. And so, from that, I wrote this song. And he's like, with this latest album, I was on set doing Killers of the Flower Moon. And, I'm playing this guy who's, taking advantage of this, all these Native American women and marrying them and killing them and all this crazy shit. He's like, I didn't realize until the album was done that I was pouring all that into it. And as he was telling me why he made this music, and you could just feel like it in this man's spirit, I went and started listening to his music. Not even the type of music I listen to, right? And I'm listening to it, I'm like, you know what? I kind of like this guy. This guy's pretty dope. And it's one of those things where it was just like, man, you could just feel, even though this guy's totally not top 40, none of that stuff, but you could feel the passion. And when I heard him talk about him making the music, it just made me want to listen to it. So I'm like, man, this guy's
he's another great example. And I watched another interview with him that he discussed. The interviewer that was asking him said, hey, earlier I heard you talking to your bass player about, is it and or a? Is it a or and? And he just kept discussing this one word. Do we pronounce it a or and in the song? A or and, sorry. And the bass player apparently looked very agitated and was like, man, it doesn't freaking matter. And then the interviewer asked the bass player, you seemed agitated about that. And he goes, he's been doing this song for 2 years. And he's still trying to decide, is it a or and? And so they asked Jason about that, and he said, because people write a movie, and you have 2 hours to describe this entire movie.
Right.
I have 3 minutes. And he was like, and when someone else says, hey, I really like this line in your song, he said, all that means to me is you identified that line as being more powerful than every other line. He was like, I want you to hear my song and not hear any of the words, but see a picture in your head. He was like, when one word or one phrase jumps out of you above the others, it takes you out of your imagination. It takes you out of the story, and you now focus on the actual words rather than the story behind it. And then his explanation, he goes, think about it like this. If you were watching a movie and all of a sudden the camera guy cut over a little too far and you saw the mop bucket in the corner and then it moved back. He was like, it would totally break you away from what was happening. You'd be like, that was a mop. Oh, this is a movie. You would remember this is a movie.
Like when you saw the Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Right.
Like, damn, Starbucks has been getting it forever.
Then you also brought up another thing, like this guy's not top 40, and that's something that Vinny and I talk about a lot with artists like him, that we also tell people constantly, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is get out of your ego's way, man, because Jason Isbell is not top 40. However, he makes far more money than most top 40 guys make because he owns everything.
Yeah.
He owns 100% of that album, and he can go out and sell out 5,000 people and
makes
every
$100
$40 to $100 per person. That's all him.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But
yeah. And it's like, you could just tell, like, having known nothing about this guy, I could just tell he was passionate and loved what he did. And it made me want to just go and be like, man, I got to hear what this guy, he was great in the movie, right? So I'm like, well, I know he can act, but he's not even an actor. So if he did that well, I got to go. I have to go hear him just from the way he's talking about, the passion that he has. And I think that, the greatest artists, not all of them do the interviews to tell you that, but the greatest artists, when you listen to their music, you listen to their albums, you immediately go to this place, right? And you go to the place where they were at when they created the music, and you just feel it with them. And so I think like that's, to me, it's just incredibly powerful. Being somebody that listens to a lot of, motivational content, a lot of speakers, I'm always telling people like my biggest, like the biggest thing I try to focus on is protecting my mind and like coating my mind with things that are going to bring out the best in me.
Yeah.
And when I listen to an artist where I can like feel them, even sometimes when it's sad, it's about low times in their life or things that weren't great. Like when you can feel that, man, to me, it gives me energy. And so, I felt that through his interview, and I felt it in the music. And so I think it's just one of those things where a lot of people won't get that from you if they don't go and listen to the album. So it's like sometimes you got to give them that even before they're listening to the album. Like before they listen to the music, you got to figure out a way to give that to them. And it's not easy, but if you can do it, man, it changes everything.
Dividends, baby, pays in dividends.
So you open me up for the question I've got for you. Obviously, you're finding great success, well deserved. And some people will listen to you and hear you and think you're there, right? Like you've made it, you're at the
no.
right. But that's going to be people's perception, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a coach or a mentor?
Yeah. So I have actually several mentors. I'm that person. I'm a big believer in authenticity. So like the mentors I had a very strict rule, and also because I've been burnt in the past. Like I wanted someone who's just like they're gonna do it for free. They're gonna come. They're gonna meet with me at least once every other week, if not every week. And most importantly, that mentor has to have done what it is I'm trying to do. Like that's like number one rule for any mentor for me. And so I had some false starts with some mentors that they fit a lot of the criteria, but I could tell their passion wasn't there to try to help me to move forward. They're doing it because I kind of asked, and I was like, "Hey, no big deal. Find somebody else."
Well, I think it's also important to know
great mentors.
A lot of them are money motivated.
Say it again.
A lot of them are money motivated. So I appreciate the fact that you said they're going to do it for free. Like in my opinion, that's when you know you've landed a good mentor. If they'll do it for free.
Yeah, absolutely. And my one mentor's name is Dan Lauer. He created, I don't know if you guys remember the Water Baby. It was a baby doll that you filled with hot water, and it was like warm, like a real baby. And so he invented this doll back in the 90s, sold a ton of them. It was like the number 2 selling doll behind Barbie for like several years. So he sold like a ton of these things.
And then out came the Furby.
What'd you say?
I said, and then out came the Furby and canceled everything.
Right, and then he lost it all. But he made a ton of money off this, right? He had a lot of wisdom, and so he became like my first really great mentor. And man, when I tell you, from just like pushing me to keep going, to like take risks when I got complacent, I got afraid to move forward. Like he would always keep pushing me, saying, "Hey, you need to do this. You got to go do this." To making those phone calls, to like when I needed to find new manufacturers or when I wanted to get into Target, like he made the phone call to open these doors for me. And then he also stayed on top of me to make sure that I wasn't like afraid, because I think a lot of times when you get so far, you're afraid to keep taking risk, right? 'Cause it's like, oh man, am I going to put this at risk? And so having a mentor that's already gone and done it is huge, because then they can tell you like, hey, you're not taking enough risk right now. Right now you're stagnant and you got to move forward. And I know that's scary and you're going to risk it to move forward, but you got to do it. And having their help changes everything. I had another great mentor who ran the largest venture capital fund in town. He's also still a current mentor. Incredible guy, just helping me grow my business, think about things totally from a totally different perspective, not from a consumer product space. So, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of, really strong, mentors that kind of help me along. And look, guys, I'm not there. We're always facing failure, always making mistakes, losing money, things aren't working out. Like, that's just life. Like, that's how it's going to happen. But what I always try to do is I look back 1 year from where I'm at today. If I look back a week, if I look over the week, I'm like, man, I'm a piece of shit. Like, I'm not doing anything. No progress is happening. I get down on myself. But if I look back a year, then I'm like, whoa,
there you go.
I've come so far. When I look back 5 years, I'm like, whoa, like unrecognizable. So I think it's really important for people to sometimes just take that step to be grateful for yourself, from where you've come. And what you've been able to accomplish.
While you're on that point, let me ask you this. So when we're talking about the future and all that kind of stuff and what's next for Flipstik? Are you done with this product and moving on to create something new? Or are you taking this and reinventing the mousetrap and saying, hey, I think I can do better if I add this, if I make it swivel, if I make it do, like, is there a future of more than just the product here?
Yeah. So right now we have about 3 or 4 different SKUs. They're all a little bit different from each other. But here's the thing. You talked about, you have it all figured out. So, last year we had a record year with Flipstik. We got Inc. magazine, top 50 fastest growing consumer product brand. Like, we really scaled this business up quite a bit. However, it wasn't a profitable business. We weren't making profits on it because we're spending so much on marketing and ads to get it product sold, and we sell a $10 to $30 item. So we don't have a lot of money to spend on advertising. And I had to go to my investors at the end of last year and say, guys, we, without millions of dollars in additional capital, like, we're going to zero, because we can't, the more we sell, the more money we lose. Like, we're not going to be able to figure it out. And I actually had to make the incredibly tough decision to scale the business way back, to scale it down to almost nothing of what it was, a shadow of its former self. And man, when I tell you, December of last year, I was devastated. I was so sad, because it felt like, once again, after all of this, all these accomplishments, all these people I've met, I've once again failed. But I realized something. I was like, wait a minute, have I actually failed? Like, am I looking at this like the right way? And I realized something, like, through the process of me doing this, I learned, like, at certain points in your life, it's time for transition. And whether it was in college, I was meant to transition to something else. When I was at all those different jobs and careers, I was meant to transition to something else. It wasn't that it wasn't working at all, but it wasn't working for me anymore. It was time for me to elevate to that next level. And I realized, like, in the past year, even though we were as successful as we had ever been, selling the most products as we ever been, I wasn't as fulfilled as I had ever been doing the job. And so slowly but surely, outside of my control, we ended up having to say, hey, it's not going to work out. And so now I'm actually on a totally new journey. One of the reasons I was at that speaking event is through this crazy story that I've had in trying to get this business to work. I've been invited to speak at a lot of different events. I speak to a lot of entrepreneur students, that kind of stuff. And I remember I spoke to this school, this high school, and I didn't know that the teacher was doing a dissertation on me and my speaking to his students. He actually got an idea to do the dissertation on how bringing in speakers, experiential learning could affect students. And he reached back out to me and was like, bro, like, I did this dissertation on you. I know you didn't know, but you couldn't know because you would have messed up the study. But these kids, like, you had a massive effect on these kids and their learning. And that was the first time in all the speaking I'd done where I realized, like, damn, my story is actually, like, people are affected by this. Like, through seeing, like, wow, if this joker could do it, I can probably do it too. Like, that actually is working for them. And man, it just lit this fire inside of me where I was like, you know what? I have to go out and really speak this into other people. Like, look, I didn't have much, but I figured it out. I made it happen. And I've had incredible, awesome experiences ever since then. And so if I can do it, you can do it too. So while Flipstik is, it won't go much further than it's been. We're still available for sale in a lot of these retailers, but we're kind of winding things down at Flipstik. I know for me, my story is just beginning, and I'm just excited to see where it takes me next.
Well, with that being said, I love the Flipstik, and I'm excited about it, and I don't think you should ever let it go completely away because people utilize the things for their phones. So I don't know if maybe the idea was to put your favorite NFL team on here if you had to do licensing, but that you lose all your money when you do that, right?
Man, listen, we talked to the licensing folks. So just to give you an example, we had a meeting with Disney, and Disney was like, "Hey, listen, we'd love to do it. It's going to be $1 million up front, okay? And then we're going to need 30% of every sale."
Yeah. You're like, "Nah, we're good."
That sounds like a good deal for them.
I was like, okay.
Meet Blenderella. She was the drunk. She's a drunk princess that we created. She lost her wooden slipper as she snuck out the back of the barn. Yeah.
Well,
licensing is definitely great, but it's expensive business to get into.
Yeah.
Two things that you hit on there. One, and through a lot of the story, I've been thinking about this guy. Randy Couture is a good friend of ours, and we were in this a class with him one day, and he's talking to these people, and somebody said something about how they didn't think it was fair the way that he looked at things because he didn't fail. He was a champion. And he was like, you know how many years I wrestled in the UFC? You know how many championships I took? I took 7. I wrestled for 16 years. And he's like, that means that I didn't take the championship 9 years. He's like, that means that I got real close 9 years.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then when I failed, I didn't fail in my living room. I failed on national TV in front of the world.
Everybody.
And so when you're talking about failing and those sort of things, I think that's also different. The ones of us that have chosen a dream of any kind that's in front of everyone. Vinny and I were just talking about it today, how many times people would come up to me or Vinny and go, I just love you. I just thought you'd be bigger by now. You're like, thanks. That's the most backhanded compliment you can. Like, you're so good. Why are you so unsuccessful? It's such a weird thing. And even to the point of when you've put your heart and soul into something, for some odd reason, let's use the Sprint and Verizon thing, right? If someone goes, hey, you still work at Sprint? And you go, no, I work at Verizon now. That seems normal. It's a different feeling when someone, and I'm sure you can relate to this with that question that Vinny just asked you. When someone walks up to me or Vinny and says, hey, you still in music? It's like this loaded question right there because you either say yes, and then you're getting these questions of well, what's going on? What are you doing? And that success level starts to creep in. And if you were to go, no, I'm building houses now. They go, so you're not playing music anymore.
So you failed.
Right. That's the feeling that comes on. And it's such a strange thing when it comes into the creative line, entrepreneurship. Like you, Jeff, going out and starting your business. If you took a job for someone else all of a sudden.
Yeah.
People wouldn't go, oh, Jeff took a better job somewhere else. They would go, oh, his business failed.
Yeah.
And the reality is that whatever I'm doing got me to the next spot.
So many people are preying on your downfall, right? Because they're not where they want to be in life. So when you lose, they want to know about it. And my thing is, I'm like, dude, I've lost so many times, and every time I've lost, I've came back 10 times better. So
I don't know, man. I don't think we lose. I think we restructure.
Yeah, we learn. We don't lose. We learn.
Gather up and go. All right.
So last two things. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I heard this story, and I had never heard this before. And you may know this. I was listening to this guy talk about Abraham Lincoln, and he starts off by saying Abraham Lincoln was a complete absolute failure. He started his business in Springfield, Illinois. Starts this business, gets a business partner, gets a loan, opens a storefront, and his business partner dies on him. And he wasn't good enough to continue the business by himself, and the business failed and went out of business. End of story. And it was like, well, we all know that's not the end of the story. But not
Yeah.
only is it not the end of the story, it's the story we've never heard. We've never heard that Abraham Lincoln was a failed entrepreneur and failed his business, which is why he ran for office. We've never heard that he lost more elections than he won. We never heard that when he tried to become the Speaker of the House, he got completely shut out and didn't make it in. All we've ever heard is how he's one of the greatest presidents of all time.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is just a lie. It's just not true.
That's the old Instagram
But
treatment.
but if it's all you ever hear, you're like, I could never do that. I mean, I could never be that person. But no one realizes, like you said with Ryan, dude, I didn't win 9 times. That's what you don't see, or at least you refuse to see. But the truth is, like, when you look at any successful person, any athlete, any musician, any business person, when you look at their story, there's always the same, right? It's always climbing that mountain and the roller coaster and the ups and downs and all this stuff that happened to them to get to that point. But only thing that you ever see talked about is, oh, this guy's a billionaire. It's like, well, it's probably a little bit more to that story.
Yeah.
And if you meet the guy that didn't fail, he's really arrogant.
Yeah.
He's really, really arrogant.
So last 2 things, and we'll have to wrap this up. And definitely want to have you on again, man. You're such a great personality and just a good human being, man. We immediately connected, and I knew we was going to be friends for life. But one, how old are you now?
Yeah, I'm 31 now.
31. See, you got it. I mean, you're crushing it at 31. We're all old in here, okay? you're our young Padawan.
No, I refuse to. I always tell people I'm young. Listen, look, I believe that if you say you're young, you'll stay young.
Oh, I feel young.
Listen, every time somebody asks my age, I think I'm 32, and then I'm like, oh, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not at all.
Yeah. No, in my mind, I'm saying, heck yeah, 22 years old. You go back to that. Well, I used to be able to do this much on bench press. Now, I used to be 13. You know.
Who's it? Nate Bargatze that talks about like running into like the 28 and 30-year-old. And he's like, hey, you remember when so and so? And they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And you're like, oh, really? I thought we were the same age. We're not the same age. Where's your daddy? Where's your daddy at?
Let me talk to your older brother. So that, and then the last thing I'm asking, it can be a no. Don't worry, because I'm putting you on the spot. But I mean, I still ain't got to hear the rap.
Look, I got to be honest. I didn't come here to rap. I came to talk about my business, as a matter of fact. Might start a feeding frenzy as I spit on this track. So I asked all the sharks, sit back and relax. Flipstik is the brand. If you already heard about it, raise your hand. It's a kickstand on demand with Flipstik. Gravity is under your command. Let me repeat for those who missed it. To any flat surface, your phone will stick. Get it wet, but the stickiness will persist. Tell you how I thought it up if time permits. Flipstik is the brand. If you already heard about it, raise your hand. It's a kickstand on demand with Flipstik. Gravity is under your command. In summary, I came to Shark Tank for a band. So I could put Flipstik in everybody's hands. Sharks, get a kid a chance. I'll deliver ROI on your 100 grand.
Yeah.
All right.
See, you caught me off guard. I thought you was going. I thought you was going to hit me with the man. I didn't come here to rap. I don't rap. And then you just went right into the whole thing, bro. I was like, okay.
Showmanship.
Come on with it. No, you sucked me in, and then I added the beatbox in there for you. So now I'm part of the song. I'll just take a word for a third kind of thing. So
I'll give you 3 points on it.
Okay, perfect. Well, man, it's an honor to have you on here, and you're the first one from the Speak Off that I've got to actually bring and do this with, and this is the very first one we filmed since I've been there. So, man, I'm glad it's you. I love what you bring to the table and everything.
Absolutely.
The things that you're getting into. I mean, don't be afraid to let us boys know about some opportunities if there's opportunities that come along with it.
Where can people find you?
Investments and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. So, if people want to find me, they can reach me on pretty much all social media channels, either at Akeem Shannon, that's Akeem Shannon, Shannon. They can follow Flipstik at Get Flipstik. There's no C in stick, Flipstik, at Get Flipstik. And then, I find that, sometimes when you are low, right, when you are ready to give up, like when you're just like, I got no talent, I can't do this. Sometimes you just need a little pick me up, just somebody to speak something into you that, hey, no, like you can do this. And for those people, who are just looking for a little bit of positivity in their life, I actually have a group text line. So if people are interested in getting some messages from me, it's completely free. They can reach me by texting 314-789-9656. 9,005.
Dope.
Bam.
That's awesome. I thought he was going to go, if you're feeling down on yourself and you feel like you don't have any talent, just watch TikTok. There's plenty of people with no talent making all sorts of money.
Man, I'm telling you.
Hey, Akeem, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Hey, y'all, if you're watching this episode, make sure you get on his social medias, add him on there. You just heard how to do it. Just make sure that you like, share, subscribe, give us 50 stars. If we can get 50, if we can get 5, and that's all we can get, it's 5 is fine.
Tell them why, Vinny. Why is it so important to you?
Well, it's important to me because I got 2 kids at home, and I'll be honest with you, they eat a lot of stuff. You know, they actually don't eat a lot of stuff. They start to eat a lot of stuff, and then they leave it sitting there, and then the dog ends up eating a lot of stuff. So, or I end up eating the rest of their stuff, which is why I look like this. Oh, baby! Anyways, like, share, subscribe, follow Refined Life Podcast, or in new terms, refined as alien farts. So, thank you. Peace out. Woo!